Russia-Ukraine peace talks are dragging on, even with U.S. President Donald Trump's long desire to broker a deal between them. Is Trump giving up on them now that things are lagging? Let's turn to Professor Christophe Gaudin. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So Trump did have a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this week, only to see little sign of a breakthrough on peace talks. What was it that Trump said or did that failed to, convince Putin here?
I don't think that Trump and Putin are on the same time scale here. Trump's vision is very short term. Trump wants to secure a deal as fast as possible because he said he would. You remember that during his campaign, he said that he would be able to end this war within 24 hours or so, while on the opposite, Putin's vision, basically Putin's term is to end only when he dies. Putin is more concerned with the legacy he will leave in Russian history. Putin wants to restore somehow the USSR. Putin wants to extend Russia, and he has plenty of time. So Putin is not concerned with sacrificing human lives. He's not afraid of making the war last as long as necessary. So, in fact, to answer your question, I don't think anything Trump can say can have any influence on Putin. In a few years, Trump will be gone. He won't be president anymore. While Putin is here until he dies, and his obsession is to restore Russia's lost grandeur.
So there's no reason for Putin to rush through the whole peace process when he knows Trump will be gone within a couple of years. Now, Trump is threatening Russia with sanctions, and now that things are not working out for Trump, is that just a warning or a threat that can actually be realized? What do you think?
You know the saying, barking dogs seldom bite. So in the case of Trump, what we see is that he's very vocal about restoring America's greatness. But what we see in real life is that when it comes to his tariffs, he was forced to back down, pressed by China. When it comes to what is happening in Israel and Palestine, he's unable to pressure Israel, that is a very close ally of the US, to stop these dreadful bombings on Gaza. So if Trump is unable to pressure China, if Trump is unable to pressure Israel, I think, unfortunately, Putin is not an easy man to scare, as you imagine. And I don't think any threats Trump can come with are to scare Putin. I don't think, unfortunately, this is a reasonable assumption to make.
Well, some analysts say they are sensing a possible shift in Trump's stance, that he was leaving both Russia and Ukraine to find a deal without the U.S. as a broker. Professor Gaudin, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the analysis.
In fact, then this, on the opposite, is a very reasonable assumption, because in reality, what is it that the U.S. wanted in Ukraine? The U.S., in particular, under Trump's presidency, was focused on getting Ukraine's resources, namely minerals and rare earth elements. And the US got that. It got secured with this deal Ukraine and the US signed on minerals recently. So now Trump has been able to get everything he wanted to get, and the only thing he's after now is personal glory. He would like this war to end, so he could say that he personally ended this war. But in terms of financial, in terms of material benefits, the US has already received everything they could. So I think that now the US doesn't have anything much to win from this war anymore, so they can back down. Right now, it's mainly between Ukraine and Russia. So to answer your question more directly, the answer is yes, definitely this is what is happening. The US is withdrawing.
Well, would you then say Ukraine is the ultimate victim here? I mean, one, it signed a minerals deal with the U.S. to begin with, and it's still waiting patiently for Moscow to come to the negotiating table, I have to say.
Well, again, the answer is very straightforward here. The answer is yes. What is happening is that basically, if I am a bit blunt here, Russia and the US are sharing the remains of Ukraine. Basically, the US is taking Ukrainian minerals, these rare earth elements the American tech industry needs, while Russia is trying to take away as many territories as they can. So now, from the Ukrainian point of view, what makes it difficult for President Zelensky to sign any kind of peace treaty is that Putin is very unlikely to give up at least on the territories Russia has conquered. That is basically all the east and southeast of Ukraine, from Donbass to Crimea, basically. Zelensky said that Ukraine will not give up on any of its territories. In reality, the problem is that both Zelensky and Putin have been asking so much to their peoples. So many lives have been lost both in Ukraine and in Russia that it makes it almost impossible for both leaders to back down.
Right.
So that's an issue between Ukraine and Russia. While in the case of America, America has already, as I told you earlier, America has already been able to secure everything America needed to get from this war.
Well, Professor Gaudin, before I let you go, the Pope is now being mentioned as a possible new negotiating bridge. The question is, will Pope be more helpful than Trump?
What I can tell you is that for now, there can be only one Pope in Russia, and this Pope is Putin. Putin is the only major leader with Xi Jinping who didn't attend the funerals of Pope Francis, and he wouldn't even send an ambassador or a representative to these funerals. So I think it is relatively unlikely because from the Russian perspective, the Pope in particular, this new Pope who's American, is actually conceived to be some part of the West as a whole. Putin's Russia is becoming more and more Russia-centric. Therefore, I'm afraid that all non-Russian influences can be expected to be discarded. I'm afraid this is unlikely.
So it won't be easy to see Putin or Zelensky or Trump at the Vatican anytime soon. Professor Gaudin, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you a lot. Bye-bye.